Greetings to all my friends and a warm welcome to everyone joining us on this channel. Today, we continue our journey into one of the most dramatic moments in history, Chapter 6, Part 2, The Valley of Death. In our last episode, we saw how the Chinese tightened the noose, their campfires blazing across Thagla, their regiments preparing to strike, and 7 Brigade left cold, under-equipped, and exposed. The trap was ready. The storm was just hours away. And now, in Part 2, we step into the dawn of 20th October, the day the valley erupted in fire. If you're with us in this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. Your support keeps this story alive. Let's begin. The guns at Zhangzhong had fallen silent. But the silence was far deadlier than the bullets. 10 Indian soldiers lay dead, and yet the valley itself seemed to hold its breath. Snow dusted the ridges, the Nam Ka Chu flowed cold and unforgiving, and the forests whispered only of danger. For the men of 7 Brigade, every step on those narrow tracks carried a shadow of fear, because they knew the enemy was out there, watching, waiting, and preparing for the storm to come. The Nam Ka Chu shimmered like turquoise glass, winding silently through the valley. On its banks, bamboo and pine pressed close, while autumn painted the rhododendrons a fiery red. But this beauty was a cruel disguise. By mid-October, the nights turned merciless. Frost clung to the rocks, vines cut like knives, and temperatures plunged below freezing. For the soldiers of 7 Brigade, every breath in that valley burned colder than the last. On the night of 19th October, Major Gurdyal Singh stepped out into the biting cold and looked toward Thagla Ridge. His heart sunk. Across the darkness, dozens of Chinese campfires blazed defiantly, not hidden, not cautious, but burning openly, arrogantly. It was no accident. It was a message, a challenge carved in fire across the ridge. We are ready. The flames on Thagla left no doubt the enemy was ready. And yet, down in the valley, the Rajput of 2nd Battalion stood stretched to the breaking point. 4 kilometers of riverfront, strung out across fragile log bridges, their platons scattered with gaping holes between them. If one position was hit, the others could do nothing but watch. It wasn't a line of defense. It was a line waiting to be broken. The Rajput held the valley floor, but the Chinese owned the heights. From their 3-tiered defenses on Thagla Ridge, they looked straight down into the Nam Ka Chu. 600 meters above the river, their mortars and machine guns commanded every inch of the battlefield. No trench, no bunker, no movement could escape their eyes. Even Tsangdhar, where the rest of 7 Brigade was dug in, lay within their deadly arc of fire. From up there, the enemy could strike at will, while the men below had nowhere to hide. From the heights, the enemy had firepower. But in the valley, the Rajput had almost nothing. No winter clothing. Just one thin blanket for each man against the freezing nights. Mortars stood ready, but without ammunition. Each soldier carried barely 2 grenades. Even their artillery was crippled, only 2 guns in working order, with no observation posts, no radios, and no way to direct their fire. Cold, undersupplied, and cut off. The men of 7 Brigade faced impossible odds before the first shot was even fired. But Major Gurdyal Singh was no stranger to desperation. 14 years earlier, at Naushera, he had torn through enemy wire and gunfire to save a post from falling. Courage had always been his answer to impossible odds. Now, at Nam Ka Chu, he looked at his men, brave, loyal, determined, yet trapped in a valley that offered no escape. He knew what was coming, and he knew that most of them would not leave this ground alive. That night, the valley turned to ice. The temperature plunged to -5. In their bunkers, men huddled together, sharing thin blankets, their rifles crusted with frost, their fingers too numb to grip. Across the dark river, Chinese fires burned defiantly on Thagla Ridge. The men of 7 Brigade could feel it in their bones. The enemy would come. The only question was when. For 20 days, The Chinese had watched every move, counting trenches, marking gaps, studying the valley inch by inch. Now, their plan was complete. Chairman Mao himself gave the order, a three-pronged strike, a frontal assault to smash the line, flanking attacks to roll it up, and night infiltrations to cut off every escape. The trap was locked, and at dawn, it would close. At last, the orders were set in motion. 2 Chinese regiments would smash into the Rajput and Assam rifles at Dhola. Others would swing wide to encircle the Punjabis and Grenadiers. It was a plan with one brutal objective: annihilate 7 Brigade before India could even react. As the soldiers loaded mortars and fixed bayonets on Thagla Ridge, the valley below held its breath. Dawn was only moments away, and with it, the storm. In the frozen darkness of Nam Ka Chu, 7 Brigade waited. The cold bit through their thin blankets, rifles were crusted with frost, and silence pressed heavier than the mountains themselves. They knew they were outnumbered. They knew they were outgunned. And they knew the enemy had them surrounded. Yet still, they stood their ground, weary, hungry, but unbroken. Across the river, the Chinese campfires burned through the night, each flame a reminder of the storm about to break. And with this, we come to the end of part 2 of Chapter 6, The Valley of Death. The stage is set, the enemy is ready, and dawn will decide the fate of 7 Brigade. Friends, if you are liking this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for part 3, where the valley erupts in fire. And if you want the PDF of our notes, feel free to call on the number given in the description. Till then, stay focused, stay strong. Jai Hind.